Imagine waking up in a world where nothing means anything. No hidden plan, no divine intention, just atoms swirling in silence. That's the idea that haunts modern philosophy, nihilism. The belief that the universe is indifferent, life is accidental, and meaning is a human invention. But here's the paradox: if everything is meaningless, then why do we keep searching for meaning? Why does your brain, a sack of biological soup, refuse to stop asking, what's the point? Maybe it's instinct. Maybe it's a glitch. Or maybe meaning is not something to be found, but something we are wired to create. Like a spider spins its web, the mind spins stories. Not because there is meaning, but because we can't live without pretending there is. You are not a passive observer of meaning, you are its author. Your brain is a pattern recognition monster. It sees faces in clouds, gods in thunder, destiny in coincidences. We connect dot 7 when the dots are random. Evolution didn't care about truth, only survival. And seeing meaning, even where there was none, might have saved your ancestors from danger. But now, it curses you with existential vertigo. You stand on a rock in space, staring into a sky that won't blink back, and whisper, why? Here's the twist. Maybe the universe doesn't owe you an answer. Maybe it's silent on purpose. Because the point isn't to find meaning, it's to survive the absence of it. Let's try a strange thought. What if the search for meaning is itself the meaning? You are like a character in a novel who realizes he's in a story but can't read ahead. All you have is the moment, the sentence you're in. The mystery keeps you moving. A perfect answer would end the story. So maybe meaning isn't a destination. Maybe it's motion, a direction. Like sailing towards the horizon not to reach it, but to keep the sea alive beneath you. Suppose there is no grand design, no blueprint, no divine script, just entropy, chaos, and the cold hum of physics. That sounds terrifying, but it's also freeing. If nothing has meaning, then everything can. You get to decide. You can sculpt your own purpose out of silence, like art in a blank frame, or music in a pause. And that's the trick, isn't it? Meaning isn't found, it's forged. You, the seeker, are also the question. Consciousness is the mirror reflecting itself. You ask, what is meaning? But who's asking? Perhaps the mind invented meaning to protect itself from its own awareness, to soften the blow of mortality, or to distract from the horror of infinity. But maybe meaning is not a shield. Maybe it's the fire, the thing that burns even in the dark, that says, I don't know why I exist, but I will still dance. Let's return to the beginning. If everything is meaningless, why does that sentence hurt? Because deep down, you suspect that even in the absence of meaning, the experience of searching matters. That pain, joy, loss, love all, these things are real even if they don't last. That being conscious, here, now, is a miracle that defies logic. So here is the final paradox. Meaning is both an illusion and a necessity. It is both hollow and full. It is both nothing and everything you are. You were not meant to find it. You were meant to become it. Is the universe indifferent or intimate? You gaze into the night sky. It doesn't gaze back. Billions of stars blaze in silent indifference, and none blink just for you. The vastness of space does not seem to care that you're looking. So here's a question. If the universe is truly indifferent, why do you feel so haunted by its silence? Why does the cold of space feel personal? This is the paradox of cosmic intimacy. We stare into a void and find ourselves reflected. But what if it's not a reflection at all? What if it's projection? Our own longing casts like light onto the fabric of the universe. We feel watched by stars that are long dead. Are we lonely in a crowd of galaxies? Or alone only because we expect something to answer? Maybe the universe isn't cold. Maybe it's just quiet. And maybe that's worse. You look at the clock, it says 11:11. Your favorite song plays as you enter the cafe. You think about someone and then they call coincidence, right? But how many coincidences does it take before you feel watched by something unseen? What if meaning is a side effect of pattern recognition gone rogue? Your brain is a machine designed to make sense of noise, to find tigers in the bushes, to make gods from thunder. But now it makes meaning from static, from randomness, from the way clouds look like faces, from dreams you had 2 years ago that weirdly match today. The more chaos there is, the more your brain paints over it with order, like a child scribbling on a wall and calling it art, or like the universe trying to speak through you. Because maybe, and this is the dangerous thought, maybe coincidences aren't accidents. Maybe they're signs, or maybe they're just noise we've mistaken for poetry. Same data, different interpretation. Same life, different meaning. We live inside stories. Stories about who we are. Stories about what the world is. Maps we inherited from parents, from schools, from movies, from memes. But here's the trouble. The map isn't the territory. The symbol is not the thing. You don't see reality. You see a version of it. Filtered, cropped, narrated. The philosopher Alfred Korzybski warned us, the map is not the territory. But most of us live and die by maps. We fight for them, we build identities on them. So here's the question. If your map is wrong, what's guiding you? And if your map was never yours to begin with, who's truly living your life? What if the truth isn't missing, just mislabeled? What if you're not lost, just navigating someone else's coordinates? You say you want the truth, but what would you do if you saw the territory bare? No path, no markers, just existence. Would you panic, or would you finally feel free? Imagine a mirror that shows not your face, but your thoughts. Every stray anxiety, every daydream, every guilt you've buried under routine. Now imagine everyone could see it. That's kind of what it's like to exist in the modern world. Every post, every photo, every word, a glimpse into an internal life externalized. A thought half translated through pixels. But is that you? Or is that just your shadow walking beside the idea of yourself? Because here's the real twist. You're not even sure what you look like inside. Your personality is a patchwork. Your beliefs, rented. Your desires, modified by algorithm. We are mirrors that reflect mirrors, endlessly recursive. So when you say I think, who is doing the thinking? When you say I want meaning, is it you wanting it or the idea of you needing it to feel whole? Maybe the mirror never reflected you at all. Maybe there was nothing there to reflect in the first place. Let's say you wake up in a white room. No doors, no windows, just light. You're handed a compass, but it spins aimlessly. North, south, west, east, it makes no difference. Now imagine this is your life. The compass is your mind, and it's desperately trying to find north, a purpose, a direction, a reason. And every time it thinks it's found it, it spins again. Welcome to the paradox of purpose. If there is no inherent meaning in the universe, then why do we seek it with such passion? Why build entire civilizations, philosophies, and faiths on top of the assumption that there must be something behind the curtain? Because the act of seeking may be more important than finding. In evolutionary terms, purpose seeking is an adaptation. Like your liver, it exists because it helped your ancestors survive, not because it was correct. Imagine two early humans, one who sees thunder as a meaningless flash of nature, and one who believes it's a message from a god. One hides from storms, the other invents rituals, builds huts, tells stories. Guess whose genes get passed on? Meaning, even false meaning, is a survival tactic, and it worked. 0 hours, 15 minutes, and 0 seconds. But there's a glitch. As consciousness grows, so does the need for consistency. We want reality to make sense. We want our feelings to correspond to facts. We want the world to be kind because we try to be kind. We want fairness, justice, karma, anything that makes this whole show feel intentional. But reality isn't fair or just, or even particularly interested in your feelings. Nature is busy being nature. And so you feel the pull. the need to impose a narrative, a storyline, a why. So you invent stories, sacred stories, scientific stories, personal stories. You build structures, religions, frameworks. You hang metaphysical wallpaper over the void. And it works until it doesn't. Because at some point, your stories will contradict themselves, your beliefs will crumble, the compass will spin, and that's terrifying. But maybe, just maybe, that's okay. 0 hours, 17 minutes, and 0 seconds. Maybe the point of the compass isn't to find a fixed destination, but to keep you walking. Think of a maze with no exit. If you stop, you go mad. But if you walk, if you explore, if you map the territory, even if there's no end, you are alive, and that might be enough. So the compass? Let it spin. Let it guide you through the paradox, through the mess. Let it point nowhere. Because the journey itself creates paths. Zoom out. You are a tiny dot on a medium rock, orbiting a mediocre star in a minor galaxy, drifting in a vast ocean of silence. No pressure. And yeah, there you are, thinking about meaning, desperate to zoom back in to make your dot matter. But here's the thing. The bigger the picture, the more everything looks the same. Galaxies, atoms, clouds, they all start to blur. Order and chaos dissolve into patternless pattern. Maybe the reason you can't see the whole picture is because there isn't one. Or maybe brace yourself, it's because you are the picture, the whole thing. Every breath you take, every neuron that fires, every silly little hope or heartbreak, these are not side effects of the universe. They are the universe, noticing itself. You aren't watching the movie. You are the movie, which makes the question of meaning even weirder. Because asking what's the meaning of life is like a wave asking what's the meaning of the ocean. You're made of it. You're in it. You are it. And yet, you still ask. Because questions are what make you real. So keep asking. Even if the answers don't come, especially if they don't. Imagine waking up in a world where everyone speaks in riddles. Their words sound familiar, their tone even comforting, but their meaning slips away the moment you try to grasp it. Welcome to life. Life is a language, but no one gave you the dictionary. You're born into a story already halfway through. You don't know who the characters are, what the plot is, or if there even is one. And every time you think you've got it, the genre changes. Tragedy becomes comedy, comedy becomes thriller, thriller becomes a surreal French art film about a snail contemplating mortality. And still you search for subtitles, religion, science, art, therapy, TikTok, astrology. All are attempts to decode the message, to translate the narrative, to make sense of the strange poetry you call existence. But what if there is no master key, no universal grammar of the universe? What if life is the kind of novel where the author died halfway through, the rest written by drunk interns and a cat that walked on the keyboard? Still, you read on. Because even if the story doesn't make sense, the act of reading gives it rhythm. And rhythm is one step away from meaning. So here's the paradox. Life might be untranslatable, but we live it anyway. We don't abandon the book. We underline the sentences that stir us, even when we don't fully understand them. Because sometimes being moved is more important than knowing where you're being moved to. And maybe, just maybe, that's the meaning hiding in the margins. Let's entertain a thought experiment. What if the meaning you're searching for isn't out there at all, but inside you? What if the entire quest, the endless exploration of science, philosophy, religion, art, isn't a search for truth, but a search for you? For your own reflection? Maybe you've been chasing something that isn't a thing, but a process. Not a destination, but a transformation. What if meaning isn't a conclusion, but the very act of questioning? The more you ask, the more you create meaning, like an artist working with nothing but a blank canvas. In this view, the universe becomes a mirror endlessly reflecting your thoughts, ideas, and perceptions. Your search isn't a journey through the world, it's a journey through your own mind. And if that's true, does anything else matter? Does the universe, the endless cosmos, even exist outside your awareness? Could everything be an extension of your own consciousness? Could meaning be your creation and you the god of your own reality? It's a radical thought. But isn't that what every great philosopher ultimately asks? Are we creating our own meaning, or is it being handed down from the heavens? The answer may be in the questions we ask. So let's pause for a moment. What if you are both the creator and the creation? Now let's try something unsettling. What if the end of this journey was already written at the very beginning? What if everything that you've experienced, every thought, every decision, every twist of fate, was simply a long, winding road leading to one inevitable conclusion? You might think, wait, that sounds like destiny, like there's no room for free will, and, well, you're right. It might feel like there's a hidden script to the universe, with every line and scene already planned, and we, as players, are simply acting out our parts. The choices you think you're making, the paths you think you're choosing, what if those were already decided before you even knew you had a choice? This is a dark and uncomfortable thought, isn't it? It's the heart of determinism, the idea that everything from the moment the universe began was preordained. Your birth, your thoughts, your actions, your deep very event in the cosmos, from the creation of galaxies to the flutter of a butterfly's wings, was set in motion billions of years ago. And you, here now, are simply playing your part in the grand play of existence. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the beginning and the end aren't two separate things at all? What if they're the same thing? What if the end of this journey is a return to where it all started, like a loop that bends back in on itself? Could it be that the meaning we're seeking isn't some distant destination, but the cyclical nature of existence itself? What if life is just a story that keeps rewriting itself, beginning and ending over and over in an infinite loop? That the end we fear is merely a return to the beginning? And in that case, maybe it's not the destination that matters, but the journey itself. The twists, the turns, the questions. Maybe the meaning isn't at the end at all. It was there in the beginning, and it's been there all along. It's just that we needed to get here to see it. Let's take a step back for a moment. Everything we've discussed so far, destiny, determinism, the paradox of time, what does it all mean? What if all the struggles, all the striving, all the questions we ask about our existence are not just for answers, but for the journey itself? What if meaning isn't something to be discovered at the end of our lives or at some distant point in the future, but something that unfolds as we move through life, moment by moment, experience by experience? It's tempting to believe that meaning must have a destination, a point on the horizon that we're supposed to reach, a moment where everything clicks, where the puzzle pieces fall into place and we finally get it. But maybe the puzzle itself is the point. What if the journey is the answer, and the more we try to figure it out, the further away from the true answer we get? Think about it. When you're caught up in a great story, you're not just waiting for the end. It's the twists and turns, the characters, the unknowns, the moments of discovery that give it depth. The same can be said for life. If we were to suddenly reach the end, would it matter anymore? Would the journey have been worthwhile if there was no mystery left to uncover? Perhaps it's not about getting to the destination, but about the way the journey changes us along the way. With every challenge we face, every person we meet, every choice we make, we are constantly reshaping ourselves. And maybe that process, the way we evolve, is the ultimate meaning of it all. So what if the meaning is built into the journey itself? Maybe that's the paradox. We're looking for meaning in the wrong places, thinking it's some end goal we need to reach, when in reality, it's woven into every experience we have. So if the journey is the meaning, then what happens when we try to control it all? To navigate life as if we were steering a ship through calm, predictable waters. We set goals, we make plans, we carve out path shopping that, by controlling the course, we can achieve some sense of purpose. But what if that's just another illusion? Let's entertain a thought. What if control itself is an illusion? What if we're not the captains of our lives, but merely passengers on a ship that's being tossed around by unseen forces, society, genetics, time itself? Maybe all of our striving, all our attempts to bend the world to our will, is just us trying to impose meaning on a chaotic, uncontrollable universe. If you think about it, control can only exist if there is something to control. But if the universe is an unpredictable web of variable chaos wrapped in layers of complexity, then isn't the very idea of control just another form of delusion? The paradox here is that by desperately trying to control everything, we might actually be distancing ourselves from the thing we desire most: peace. The more we grip tightly to the steering wheel, the more we fight against the current of life, the more we lose sight of the bigger picture. We're so focused on the destination, on reaching a place where everything is under control, that we miss the beauty of the journey itself. The only thing we truly have control over is how we react to the chaos. And maybe that's enough: to surrender, to accept, to float with the current instead of against it. The real meaning might not lie in controlling life, but in accepting that life is far beyond our control. So what's the lesson here? Maybe it's not about striving for control, but about understanding the limits of our control. It's about embracing uncertainty and finding freedom within the chaos. And in doing so, we might discover that the absence of control is not the absence of meaning, it's the key to it. Now, let's pause for a moment and ask, what does freedom mean to you? You might think you know freedom is the ability to make your own choices, to act without constraint, to live life on your terms. But what if freedom, as we understand it, is actually another paradox in disguise? Freedom is often seen as the ultimate goal, the key to meaning, the thing we strive for. We believe that if we could just break free from all the constraints, society, obligations, expectations, then we would be free to create our own meaning. But what if that's the problem? What if the very thing we seek is the thing that traps us? Let's take a closer look. In the pursuit of freedom, we often become overwhelmed by the sheer number of choices we face. Every moment, we're faced with infinite possibilities. But with each new option comes a sense of responsibility, a pressure to make the right choice. The more freedom we gain, the more we're burdened by the weight of decision. It's a paradox. The more freedom we have, the more it seems to paralyze us. Think about it. When you have too many choices, do you feel liberated or anxious? It's like being given an empty canvas to create a masterpiece. But the more you think about it, the harder it becomes to choose the first stroke. The freedom to choose can feel like an overwhelming responsibility. This paradox deepens when we realize that freedom is often defined by boundaries. Without some form of constraint, what is there to push against? Without a framework, how do we even know what freedom is? It's the boundaries, whether they're societal, personal, or even physical, that define what freedom can be. It's the contrast between freedom and limitation that gives meaning to both. So, is freedom really freedom if it's defined by its opposite constraint? What if true freedom isn't about having infinite choices, but about the ability to choose within a context? Maybe the paradox is that freedom is most profound when we embrace the boundaries, not when we try to escape them. And if this is true, then the search for meaning in our lives may not be about endless options or infinite possibilities. It may be about understanding that meaning emerges from the choices we make within our constraints. After all, how do we know what freedom really is if we've never experienced the limits that give it shape?